Is Facebook muting podcasts that have music in them? I'm Hank from Free Podcast Tools, and this time I want to talk about a recent Medium article that came out where the author suggested that Facebook was muting their podcast because it had music in it. So the article came out last week, and I started to get messages near the end of last week. Several people were kind of freaking out about it, and they even got me a little nervous about it as well. But the article was written on Medium. I'll put the link down in the description. And there are several things at play here. One, the podcast host and the music emanates from Canada. There could be different rules on Facebook when it comes to Canadian music. Two, given the style of music, I'm not even sure if this is something that has a mechanism in place for Facebook to have a digital fingerprint of. I know I license music, and then I listen to several other podcasts on the Facebook mobile app just to be sure, because I talk over my music, just as the author of this Medium article says she talks over music the entire episode of her podcast. So when I played the portions of my podcast where music's playing in the background, none of my episodes were muted. And I did this for several other podcasts. I went and checked them out, especially people who I know personally are licensing music just like I am. Speaking of licensing, the way this individual was licensing was through Creative Commons in Canada. So I don't know if that has something to do with why this is potentially being flagged. But the article was a little bit hyperbolic and made it seem like if you play music of any sort, your podcast is going to get muted, thus rendered useless to even release on Facebook. That's the gist of the article from my perspective. However, if you read the article yourself, it's real short. You might have a different opinion on the matter. But I license music from Storyblocks, and I've never had an issue on Facebook. I've had an issue on YouTube, but that was quickly overturned. The only time I've had an issue on Facebook is when I'm playing video games. So if I stream a video game on Facebook, sometimes the music in the background of the game will get flagged, and they will hit me with a copyright claim, and then I have to dispute it. So I've won all of the claims I've had, and it's usually just some mistake by the system that they use to monitor this. And remember, all of this stuff is automated, so it's not like a person sitting there listening to your podcast ready to hit the mute button. This is just an automated system, and something could just be slipping through the cracks. So do I think this is as widespread as the author makes it sound like it is? No. And I don't think if you're licensing your music properly that you don't have anything to worry about, and if anything arises, you should be able to beat that copyright claim. So I'm labeling this one as hyperbole, and I think that the author had a bad experience without getting a full explanation of the situation. There could be some other legal wranglings that they omitted in this article, which could be the reason why they're having an issue. But if you use music on your podcast and you have submitted your podcast on Facebook, please chime in the comments down below. Have you ever had anybody say that a portion of your podcast was muted on Facebook? Or have you even heard a podcast played on Facebook where you heard any portion of the podcast muted at all? I currently have not, and I listen to several podcasts on there, but the majority of my podcast listening takes place on a Podcasting 2.0 compliant app called Podcast Addict. I'd be very interested to hear your comments down below. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.